Welcome to another edition of Believe in Lions, brought to you by FanDuel. I'm Trevor Thompson. Glad to be along with you and glad to be alongside my guy, Glover Quinn, former Lions All-Pro safety, getting it done here on the podcast as we break down the Lions heading into Week 10 of the regular season, coming off a huge loss, a division loss to the Minnesota Vikings, 27-24. That loss came at home, Glover, not where you want to lose, not coming off a bye week, not to a team like that that's trying to creep back into the division race. And then you go on the road this week for another NFC opponent, the Washington Commanders, the team that knocked you out of the playoffs last year. This coming off a trade deadline day where your team does nothing. So much to talk about heading into Week 10. Where do you pick things up, my guy?
I mean, I just, go off what you just said, the loss to Minnesota was huge. But, I mean, when you look at it, the Lions are a team, and I've said this, they could be the best team in the NFL, and they can be an average team. When they don't show up to play, they'll be an average team, just like everybody else. When you have turnovers like that, when you're at home and you just don't come out and get yourself going. I told you J.J. McCarthy was going to be fired up. He's back in Michigan. He's back on the field again. He's going to be fired up, and he did that. He made plays. Justin Jefferson had a couple plays. We turned the ball over. We didn't play extremely well. And
he's killed them.
That's what happened, And I mean, when you look at the game, I don't know. And I mean, we started out the game seeing like we were making a point to get Sam LaPorta involved in the game, right? He had several catches first drive, probably when I think he had a touchdown, right?
Yes,
like we made a real. It was our goal to get Sam LaPorta involved. And a lot of times when you do that, it just slows other guys down, right? Like I didn't feel Jameer's impact on the game. There
was no rush game. There was no running game.
Yeah, like David Montgomery. This was the first time I seen David Montgomery. He just didn't look like he was into it. Then he fumbles, right? Amon, I just didn't feel the impact of those guys, but it seemed like they were trying to get Sam going. They were trying to get Jameson targets. Like that's what it seemed like. They came out of the bye week saying, hey, Jameer's been balling. Amon, we got to get Sam going. We got to get Jameson going. So we got to get these guys some targets. Let's try to do that because we know they're going to be focused on Jameer. We know they're going to be focused on these guys. And then you don't get your guys going. And so you're falling behind in the change. You're just it just didn't look great. And then defensively, exactly what I said, right? You had a young secondary and they played well in the first game. They played against Tampa, but Tampa was hurt at the wide receiver position, right? You come back this week, you got, Justin Jefferson, you got Jordan Addison, those guys made plays in the passing game. And some of those deficiencies that you had in the secondary showed up a little bit, right? They showed up a little bit. So, it was just one of those things where they just didn't get the job done. And Minnesota came in on the road and they got the win. Division games are going to always be tough. So the Lions dropped a tough one, man. But they came off the bye week. They looked lethargic, and we see it over and over and over. When they don't come out and play, they can get beat. They can get beat. And, we saw it opening day. We saw it Sunday. It happens. It happens. So they just got to bounce back. It's the season. You learn from it. You build on it. And, that's just a part of it. Yes, that put Minnesota kind of back into it. And the NFC North race right now is a tough one, right? You got Green Bay, but Green Bay loses a tough game in Carolina, right? So, nobody's running away with this thing right now. It's going to come down the stretch. The Lions probably got the toughest schedule going down the stretch with the teams that they have to play. But they got to play Minnesota again. They got to play Green Bay again. So they can, in a sense, control their own destiny. And that's what they got to focus on.
I want to get into the division race a little more in just a minute, but I really want to get back to this game in particular. Not only do you lose the game, but you lose some players as well. And then on the O-line, Christian Mahogany is going to be gone for a while. Terrion Arnold looked like he had finally arrived in that game, and then he misses some time. Not sure what's going to happen with him this week. Taylor Decker had to take some time off. Penei Sewell had to take some time off. We'll see whether or not those guys are available this week. but the injuries are starting to rack up, and you're already talking about a depleted secondary. Now, this week, Dan Campbell was talking about getting some guys back, but you continue to lose guys. You give and it takes, right? You get some guys back, you lose some more guys, and this wheel just goes round and round. And I was saying to you, it seems like every single whistle, not just in Lions game, but across the league, somebody's going down. The Commanders have issues on the injury side as well. Jayden Daniels is out, going to be gone for a long time with a dislocated elbow. Terry McLaurin, we're not sure whether he's going to play. Marshon Lattimore, the cornerback, not sure whether he's going to play. Looks like he's out. Luke McCaffrey, looks like he's out. But you go across the league and you look at the Lions and all the injuries right now. How do you get yourself up for this game on the road at Washington, the team that knocked you out of the playoffs, when you're going to go again shorthanded? And what are you seeing that's leading to all of these, not only with the Lions, but across the league, if you've got an answer to it?
Well, the Lions got to feel like we're going to show up. I mean, our quarterback is here. They lost their quarterback. We still got our receivers. They lost a couple receivers. Yeah, we lost, O-lineman, and we may be down some guys depending on how they come back. But we got our running game. We got to travel with us. They lost their, one of their corners in Marshon Lattimore. We have our receivers. So from an injury standpoint, everybody's hurting. We got to feel like we probably a little up just based on the skill guys and certain guys that are going down. But, I'm like you, man. Guys are getting hurt. And I sit back and I wonder sometimes, like, how did I make it through all these years without,
how did you?
Like
you missed one game, dude. You started every week.
I mean, I think I was telling you this. I think it has a lot to do with the way these guys prepare and train their bodies. Like I said, I think some of the stuff you can't avoid is just freak stuff that happens. But I think these coaches and the way the league has gone now, I think they're trying to protect players by not practicing them. They're protecting players by not playing them in preseason. They're trying to protect them in those ways, but I kind of feel like it's hurting them because they're not training their bodies to perform at the level that they're trying to push it to on Sundays. And I feel like that's causing a lot of these things. Some of these things could be avoided just from situational awareness, and a lot of that comes from being put in those situations in practice where you kind of understand this is how I survive these moments. And we get in these games and guys' bodies are getting caught in awkward positions, and I'm just like, why are you like that right now? Like, you should have your knees bent right now. Like, why are you just standing like? And like I say, I know you can't avoid everything. But you hear people say all the time, man, like, guys didn't get hurt like this back in the days. And guys, I'm sure we had our injuries and stuff. Don't get me wrong. But we probably practiced more back in the days. And the guys before me, they practiced more than I did.
Yeah.
The guys before that, we used to practice hard. You practice hard because you train your body how to handle it. And nowadays, we're supposed to have the best equipment, the best technology, the best surfaces, the best shoes, the best everything. Mm-hmm. And the injury rate got to be at an all-time high.
It takes me back to when we had Lomas Brown on the show. And there's a guy, I think he missed like 4 games in his entire 18-year career. And he talked about how hard they practiced then. He said the practices were tougher than the games. So, here's a guy over 18 years playing the position that he did, showing up every week. And he talked about how tough the practices were. So maybe there's something to that. And you talk about the guys that came before you, how tough they practiced, how tough they played, and didn't miss as many games. So maybe there's something to that. And why do you think, with all the sports science that we have and the technology and the things that you mentioned, that it's gone the opposite way?
I like I say, I really don't know. I think we're getting to the point, and I could be completely wrong because I'm not in that training circle anymore on that level, right? But I feel like we're evolving so much more to science and analytics as opposed to just hard work and effort.
It's like pitchers in baseball. Those old time pitchers used to throw complete games. Talk about 100 pitch count. Now starters don't go 5 innings, and you wonder why everybody's getting Tommy John. So maybe there's something to that.
Yeah, like
taking it too easy. themselves.
Right. Because when you think about it, like back then, you didn't know. You just run.
Mm-hmm.
Like nowadays, they can track and say, hey, this guy has ran this much. He's exerted this much force. So, we need to give him a break because we know yesterday he ran 3
Right.
miles,
Right. All the
so
sports
today we'll
science.
give him a break. Like back then, we didn't know. You just ran. You ran yesterday
Right.
at practice. You come back today and you run again.
That's the job, to run.
Right. When your legs are tired, you treat them and you go out so you can run again. It wasn't hey, we can look at the data and see this is how much effort and energy you put out yesterday. So we're going to give you the day off today so you can recover because we can see that you had a tough day yesterday. No, bro, you get in the cold tub, you get some treatment, and you get back out there and you do it again the next day. And you train your body to go when it needs to go. And I think, and like I say, they probably beat me up. I get it because I don't play now. But I'm not somebody that has never played.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're not somebody that missed time either. So
right. I played.
You're on the field. You can talk. You can say whatever you want to.
And you can ask the guys that played with me. I practiced every day. If I could practice, I practice. You can ask the coaches. I didn't want days off. I didn't want days off. Let me know I do something. I just didn't want to be walking around like I got a day off and my teammates were out there practicing. Nah, bump that. We going to work. Like that was just how I felt. Yeah, it may be some days where coach might cut your reps. Hey, we're gonna give you, 2 or 3 today, here or there, right? But just to say I'm going out, just walking around like with a hat on and everybody's practicing, nah, not me. That was just how I was.
I'm an old head. I'm old school. I'm like you. And I think that's the way it should be. Maybe the money's got a lot to do with it. Probably the money does have a lot to do with it. Guys in the sports science department justifying their jobs, which is why the tests say you need a rest right now. But hey, the proof is in the pudding. Guys are missing a lot of time right now. It wasn't like that before, and it's going to have an impact on this week's game with some of the guys who aren't going to be there. And with no Jayden Daniels for Washington, it's not who you play, it's when you're playing him. And getting a team like that at a time like this, it should bode well for the Lions on the road. Now let's get back to the NFC North division. Let's get back to the FanDuel odds on how things have changed given what happened last week in the NFC North. You mentioned Green Bay losing, Chicago with another big win. They are now tied with the Lions at 5-3 as far as the record goes in the division. But when you look at the odds for the division championship right now in the NFC North, Green Bay is on top at plus 110. Detroit is second at plus 125 ahead of Chicago, who is plus 850. Minnesota at plus 1,700. But they look like a team with J.J. McCarthy back there that's ready to make a little noise in this division. How do you see things shaping up right now, given what happened in Week 9 and moving forward with the odds that FanDuel is projecting?
I mean, I think I still feel like the Lions are the favorite. I think they are the most complete team. They just got to play that way. I think if they play that way, I think they can do it. I mean, they'll go on the road to Minnesota on Christmas Day, and then they got Green Bay back at the house, and then Chicago, they got to go out there at the end of the season. So it's going to be a cold one. So I mean, I think the Lions have enough to do it, but the Lions also probably have the toughest schedule going down the stretch. They got some tough games that they got to play. And so that being said, that tie that Green Bay has, it helps them in a sense because, you don't have as many losses in the loss column. I don't know if people understand how that stuff works, right? Like right now you look at Green Bay, they're 5-2-1, right? The Lions are 5-3. Right. They both got 5 wins, but Green Bay only has 2 losses. So they're going to be ahead of the Lions. So if it come down to something like that at the end of the season, Green Bay is going to get that win, that nod of the division because of that tie, right? But the odds got Green Bay up right now. I like the Lions over Green Bay. That's just my opinion. And I'm not just saying that because of the show. I just think the Lions are a better team. They just have their inconsistencies when they don't show up to play. But Green Bay has the same thing. Like to go and you lose to a team like Carolina, and Carolina's playing better. Don't get me wrong. But if you're going to beat a division winner in the NFC North, you got to be able to beat Carolina. And they lost. So everybody can be beat. I think the Lions had a bad day on Sunday, but I think over the course of the second half of the season, I think the Lions will come out on top.
I'm not sure people are talking enough about what's happening in Chicago right now. What are your thoughts right there? I mean, they just went out and put a 42 or 47, whatever it was, on the board against the Bengals, who are awful defensively. don't get me wrong there. They're awful defensively. But the record is what they say it is. It's 5-3 right now. They're tied with the Lions. They're getting some chemistry and moving forward. Ben Johnson's, they brought him there for a reason. His creativity on the offensive side of the ball. So they're putting up points right now. The Lions got them early in the season, maybe took advantage of some of that chemistry that they were lacking at the time. But going forward right now, they appear like they could be a legitimate threat if the Lions are going to have any slippage. What are your thoughts on what you're seeing in Chicago?
Well, I mean, the thing that I see is, when you're building a team, you have to build the trust with your players. You got to get everybody excited, right? You got to get everybody to buy in. So how do we get everybody to buy in? We have stuff for everybody, right? We have stuff for everybody. And when it's your number, like, you're excited for it, right? Like, if you look at that game on Sunday, and I didn't see the whole game. I'm not going to sit here and act like I watched the entire Chicago game, right? But when I just look at the highlights, I feel like I saw 8 reverses, like reverse here, reverse there, reverse pass here, trick pass, double pass over here, throw it over here, right? When you're doing stuff like that, guess what that does? That locks the players in. Yeah, why? Sure because if you want me to call this stuff, you got to execute it. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm not going to call it if we're not going to execute it. But if we execute it, I'm going to call it. So in order for us to execute it, we got to be locked into the details. We got to be locked into the practices and what we're trying to do. And once you do that, now you start getting everybody to buy in just a little bit more. Right, the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, everybody get a little bit, get reverse here. DJ Moore getting runs, and then this happened, and then this guy we're throwing this guy a pass, and then he's throwing it to that guy. We're handing it off to this guy, he's throwing it to Caleb, and like, it's just so much going on, but you're just buying everybody in. Yeah, it's not like a one-man show where it's the quarterback and he just throw it to a route. No, everybody's coming a part of it. And then that's how you build it, right? And so that's what I see in Chicago, but that's what it was in Detroit, right? We think about the amount of trick plays, and I wouldn't just always say trick plays, but funky plays. Think about all the different things that you saw.
Creativity.
Right. And think about what you see now. You see a lot of just straightforward handoff, That's about it. We haven't seen any hook and ladders to Penei Sewell. We haven't seen, a lot of this stuff, right? J-Mo had a couple of touchdowns off reverses last year. We might have seen 1 or 2 this year, but they're not coming off the same way. He's getting tackled in the backfield on these things. So it's just different, right? It's just different. We're sitting there like, hey, we're going to just line up and run the ball and beat you. And then we get in 4th and short, and we're going to go for it. So now you got to stop us for, like, but it gets tougher. It just gets tougher. And you look over there in Chicago, you can say what you want to say. Oh, they running trick plays and this and that. It doesn't matter. They're putting up 47 points. They won 5 games. Call it what you want.
Yeah. And right now, in the media here, John Morton's taking a lot of heat for the lack of offensive creativity that you just alluded to, and what they saw in Week 9 against the Vikings, or what they did not see, at least, against the Vikings as far as the offensive creativity goes. Where are you right now on what you're seeing on the offensive side of the ball for these guys? And I'm not sure how much of that has to do with the line, trying to protect some guys, trying to be conservative because they don't have a Ragnow in there, and they're working with a rookie in Ratledge with that O-line. I'm not sure how much of that plays into it. I don't know what I don't know, but I do know you see the game differently. So what do you see?
I mean, it's just the identity of the coach. I mean, we can all say what we want to say, but that's Ben Johnson's style. That's not John Morton's style. It is what it is. So at the end of the day, it's just like when you're dating somebody, right? You can pretend for a while to be a certain thing, and at some point, the real you is going to come out. At some point, the real you is going to come out. So taking over after Ben and this and that, right? Like, yeah, you probably want to be a little more to try to smooth off the transition into a different coordinator. But at some point, the real you is going to come out. And if you haven't been a creative, tricky play caller, play designer over the course of your career, it doesn't just happen. That's just not who you are. You are an old school, straightforward, run the ball, play action. Like, that's who you are. And that's what's going to eventually start to show up. And especially when you have players like Jared Goff, you have players like Amon, you have some of the top players. So you feel like, guys, we don't have to run tricks. We could just go beat you. We could just go beat you guys. Yeah, sure. It's the NFL, bud. It's the NFL. These other guys get paid too.
I want to talk about the trade deadline that passed. The Lions did nothing. They lost. We talked about the injuries on the O-line. We've talked about the injuries in the defensive backfield. Why do you think there were no moves made? How much of it might have to do with the fact that they just paid Aidan Hutchinson a bank full of money, and all the other guys that they've paid money to? They've paid Sewell, they've paid J-Mo, they've paid Kirby Joseph, they've paid Alim McNeil, they've paid Taylor Decker, they paid Jared Goff. How much do those contracts have to do with the fact that they didn't make a move at the deadline, or did other teams take the players they were looking for? Were the prices too high? Why do you think they made no moves, given the fact that they're a legit Super Bowl contender and they're dealing with so many key injuries at big places?
I think it literally has to do with the fact that the Lions are building their team, and the way that they build their team is, we can clearly see it. All the names you called out are guys that they drafted. They drafted every last one of those guys. So the Lions aren't going out spending big money in free agency. They're finding complementary players on day 2, day 3, and the rest of the free agency period, right? They're not being big time players in free agency. They're spending money on their own guys, homegrown guys. Taylor Decker, been there for a long time. Jameson Williams, Penei Sewell, Alim, like, they drafted all of these guys. Kirby Joseph, they're keeping their homegrown guys. So in order to do that, they're saying, we're going to spend our free agency money on our own guys. We're going to find complementary players in free agency. So what that means is, we have to continue to draft well. We have to continue to draft young, good players that give us great contributions, like we've gotten from all these guys that you name. Like we're getting from Jahmyr Gibbs, who's going to be coming up for a deal shortly. Like we're getting from a Brian Branch, who's going to be coming up for a deal shortly. Like we're getting these contributions from these guys that are all pro type of level, but they're on rookie contracts, right? They're on rookie contracts. We have to continue that. Every year we got to draft good young players. So we can't give up all our draft capital in a trade to get somebody that's an outsider. We just can't do that, because we don't know if we want to give that outsider $100 million.
Right.
So we don't want to give up our first round draft picks, our second round. Like, we need those, because that's how we're building our team. So we're going to pay our guys, we're going to draft well, and we're going to find complementary guys in free agency that want to come play with us because we're good. And we're going to give them, $5 million here, $7 million there. And we might say, well, that's good money. Yeah, but when guys are making 25, $7 million is $7 million, right? And I don't want to talk about it like $7 million is, little money. It's big money in the real world. But when you're talking,
things are relative,
right? When you're talking guys getting paid $20 million a year, to give a guy 7, I mean, that's almost 3 players, right?
Right. So
that's what I'm saying. They paying their own guys. They're paying their own guys, and they're drafting great guys. Got Jack Campbell coming up. These are all guys that they drafted that are contributing at an all-pro level for that team. They're not paying, I call them outsiders. They're paying homegrown guys. So we can't give up our draft capital. So we didn't have anything to trade. We don't have anything to trade. Sorry, guys. Next man up.
Sorry, guys. The sorry guys, next man up play in the room. Put yourself in that room right now. You see the injuries. You know what's going on. You know the guy next to you is going out there, but he's dinged up, and you're just wondering how long he can hold it together. You're heading to Washington. You mentioned you've got the toughest schedule, one of the toughest schedules in the league the rest of the way. How does that play? You didn't do anything at the deadline.
Who's gonna say something? Think Jared's gonna complain? We don't have wide receivers. You got your whole wide receiving core. You got all your running backs. What are you gonna go say?
I got who's
I need better. I need more O linemen.
I'm gonna hit the dirt this week. Who's blocking for me? Yeah, I need no lineman, dude.
Right, but do you think these teams are just giving up their good old linemen?
No, they're not.
Right,
I'm just wondering how it plays. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just wondering. You're in the room. How does
that's what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, you think. What else we need? D-line help? You think Aidan Hutchinson is saying, "Hey, I need somebody else on the other end"? Hey, you need to go trade and get me another. Like, you see what I'm saying? You think Jack Campbell is saying, "Hey, I need another linebacker"? They just got a Lee McNeil back. You know, they drafted a D lineman first round draft pick. You think they're saying, "Hey, we need some more D tackles. Go get us a guy"? Who's saying something? Nobody.
Strap it on and go.
The players feel like, hey, man, Aidan, like, I'm $100 million guy. I just got to go out and play better.
What do you think of that deal? What did you think? The funny thing is, you and I had just finished the show. It wasn't half an hour later. You sent me a text. Hutch got his money. Man, dude secured the bag all right, didn't he? What do you think of that?
Hey, man, like I said, the Lions are paying their guys. And, you know, the league has came to, and I'm not here to hate on anybody, get your money, but the league has came to a next man up type of situation when it comes to getting paid. You know, when you are the young, you know, the face, you're this, you're that, that's what they're paying you on. You know what I'm saying? It's no longer about necessarily all of the accolades. Like, I mean, I can only imagine what he would have gotten if he had won a defensive player of the year or two. Like, if he didn't get hurt last year and he continued on the pace that he was on and he won defensive player of the year, I mean, what would he have got? Would his deal have looked differently?
I don't know how.
I mean, he got that much.
How much more could the dude get?
Right, to say he got that much.
180, big numbers.
Right, but he got that much coming off of a major injury, right? And he hasn't put up the numbers that he put up last year. But we could say it's blocking schemes and how they're playing him, and he's getting a lot of pressure and all this and that. But he still hasn't put up the same numbers, right? So imagine if he kept playing last year and won DPOY. Will that number have gone up, or would it just been the same number? So, like I say, when you start looking at things, it's kind of like the next man up. When you look at these quarterbacks, these guys are getting paid $50 million and they haven't won playoff games. Mm-hmm. Right? But they're the next guy up. They're the starting quarterback. These guys haven't even won playoff games. So that's just what the league is at.
Good time to that's just what the league is at. Good time to be alive in the NFL if you're a player.
Great time.
Great time.
But shout out to Aidan Hutchinson, man. He's a great player. He's a great player for the team, for the organization, for the city. So shout out to him for getting his bag. You know, just go out and do your thing, man.
Yeah, dude is a menace, and he's going to be a problem for the Commanders when Detroit rolls into Washington this week. And FanDuel, looking at it right now, you want to take a guess at what they're giving?
Oh, they probably the lines are probably plus 6.5.
That'd be 8.5, my friend.
8.5.
Over under set at 49.5. Obviously, with no Jayden Daniels, that impacts that over under number. But on the defensive side of the ball, they're expecting the Lions to do a number. What are your thoughts on giving 8.5 on the road, coming off a loss? And obviously against a conference foe.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that, you know, they're looking at the fact that obviously Jayden Daniels got hurt, Marcus Mariota being there, but he's not Jayden Daniels. Mm-hmm. And you know, we saw what Jayden Daniels was able to do with a lack of wide receivers. You know, McLaurin being out, McCaffrey being out. So I don't think they're expecting Mariota to be able to fare much better than what Jayden was able to do with the lack of targets that he's going to have. And then when you look on the defensive side of the ball, obviously Marshon Lattimore hasn't been playing great this year, but he was out there, and now he's not out there. So I feel like if he's out there, that means you didn't really have anybody behind him to play better, right? Otherwise, Marshon would have been on the bench because I don't know if I've seen him make a play all year. And I'm not saying that he hasn't. I haven't watched the Commanders closely, but every time I look up on the screen when I have the games on, it's like they're going at Marshon Lattimore. So if you had somebody better, they probably would be rotating or getting some playing time. So the fact that he was still out there, now that he's hurt, they're going to have to play somebody else behind him. So I don't know how strong they're going to be in the secondary. And so I think FanDuel is looking at all those things and saying, we don't know if this Washington team can stop this Lions team, especially coming off of a loss. They're going to be upset. They're going to be fired up. They're going to be ready to go. The Lions have always performed well coming off of a loss. We see what they did in week 1 against Green Bay and what they came back to do in week 2 to get that win. And then they went off and hauled off 4 or 5 in a row, right? So the Lions, they bounce back typically and from a loss, and they play well. So I think they're going to expect the Lions to bounce back from this loss, get back refocused, and come back and play well. And then and Washington is coming off a loss, major loss, not only on the scoreboard, but with their starting quarterback and things like that as well. So I think they're expecting that game to be a big game for the Lions and a a tough one for the Commanders.
Fans here in Detroit are certainly hoping that it unfolds that way. Not happy with the performance against the Vikings, so they'll watch the Lions take their act on the road to Washington and look for another win, their 6th of the season. Your final thoughts as we wrap this thing up and head off to Washington this week for Week 10?
This right here is getting down to crunch time. Obviously, this is a stretch run. I said coming off the bye week, the Lions had a nice little stretch that they were looking at going into Thanksgiving, right? They already went down 1 game, and now they're going on the road to a team that put them out in the playoffs last year. So you should have that chip on your shoulder for them putting you out last year. And they're shorthanded right now, so you cannot afford to go on the road and lose this game. So they need to be healing up. It's kind of concerning that Kirby Joseph missed the game coming off of the bye week with the knee. So maybe the knee is a little more serious than maybe we've known about. Having almost basically 2 weeks off and still not being able to play, that's a little concerning. But whatever it is, they got to get ready. They got to go out and they got to make sure they get this win in Washington. If not, it could be a tough stretch for the Lions.
It's going to be an interesting and a huge Week 10 all across the NFL, and certainly here in Detroit for your Detroit Lions. When it's all said and done, Glover Quinn and I will be here to recap it and break it all down for you, and then look ahead to Week 11 for your Detroit Lions here on Believe in Lions, brought to you by FanDuel. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Be sure to like, be sure to subscribe, be sure to enjoy. We will see you again soon.